Chapter 2: Your Set Point Weight. Think back to high school biology class. We all learned how we pump blood with our circulatory system and how we breathe with our respiratory system. But there is another major system that didn't make it into our high school biology textbooks. This system, at the heart of our weight and health struggles, has been widely ignored by health and fitness experts. It is what scientists call the homeostatic control system, lipostat, adiposity negative feedback system, or more simply, the set point. We already understand the idea of the set point intuitively. We just call it metabolism. We see someone who eats a lot and looks like a beanpole and say, Sam's so lucky to have a fast metabolism. Or we notice that we're not eating any more or exercising any less, but seem to be gaining weight and think, my metabolism must be slowing down. Little do we know that our intuition is reflecting the last 70 years of biological investigation. What we call a fast metabolism is what researchers call a low set point. And what we call a slow metabolism is what researchers call a high set point. Simply put, your set point is determined by a series of hormonal signals released from your gut, pancreas, and fat cells, which travel to the hypothalamus in the brain. The brain then regulates how much you eat and how many calories you burn and how much body fat you store long term through various hormones and neurotransmitters such as serotonin, leptin, and ghrelin. Your set point weight refers to the level of stored fat your body automatically works to maintain, regardless of the quantity of calories you take in or exercise off. Your set point explains why it's so hard to keep fat off through traditional diet and exercise techniques. It also explains why obese people do not keep getting heavier and heavier until they explode. I know that last part sounds silly, but seriously, why don't obese individuals gain weight forever? If their eating and exercise habits got them to weigh 450 pounds, why won't they eventually weigh 4,500 pounds? These individuals somehow automatically stop gaining weight. How does that work with conventional calorie counting? It doesn't. Long-term fat gain works like this. A person's hormones go haywire, causing her set point to rise. Then her body fights to keep her storing more fat. Obesity is not a disorder of body weight regulation, says David S. Weigel, MD of the University of Washington School of Medicine and Harborview Medical Center. Most obese people hold a stable weight around their elevated set point weight. Obesity is simply the result of a body defending this elevated weight, but in a very regulated way. A heavy person's higher set point prompts their body to store more fat in just the same way that a thin person's lower set point prompts their body to burn more fat. We all have a set point, and that's what determines how slim and stocky we are long term, not calorie counting. I know this is a huge departure from what you've been told over the past few decades, but look at where that information has taken us. Keep in mind that nobody even knew what a calorie was, let alone counted them, until the concept was introduced to the chemistry community in the mid-1800s. Then it wasn't until the mid-1900s, ironically just before the beginning of the obesity epidemic, that the concept of calories made it into the mainstream diet and health literature. If calorie counting is required for long-term health and fitness, why were the rates of obesity and diabetes and heart disease so much lower before we even knew what a calorie was? The explanation is that up until a few decades ago, we ate foods that maintained the body's natural ability to balance calories automatically around a slim set point weight. In other words, for the past 40 years, we've been told to eat things that prevent our body from doing what it did for the entirety of human history. Stay healthy and fit automatically. No calorie counting needed. To be clear, this isn't controversial. Only two things need to be tested to prove that the body works to automatically regulate body weight around a set point. 1. If a healthy person eats less of her existing diet, does her body automatically take steps to prevent fat loss? Most simply, does her metabolism slow down? 2. If a healthy person eats more of his existing diet, does his body automatically take steps to prevent fat gain? Most simply, does his metabolism speed up? Studies have consistently and clearly answered yes to both of these questions. The biochemical fact that the body unconsciously regulates body fat levels within a set range is no more debatable than the fact that the body unconsciously regulates blood sugar within a set range. The days of the set point theory are as long gone as the days of the theory that the earth revolves around the sun. We can now overcome obesity by healing rather than fighting against the proven biological system that balances your weight. Do calories count? Of course. But can we really count them even if we wanted to? As Randy Seeley, PhD, director of the Diabetes and Obesity Center at the University of Cincinnati, cleverly tells us, you couldn't find a scale sensitive enough to count calories accurately. And if you did, the crumbs you accidentally dropped on the floor would completely throw off your calculations. Sidebar: do calories count or not? Calories count, but that doesn't mean you need to count calories. Eric Westman, MD, MHS, Duke University Medical Center. Calories count. However, counting them can't be necessary for health, considering that before most people knew what a calorie was, about 90% of the population avoided obesity, and over 99% of us avoided type 2 diabetes. Think about a sink. If you dump buckets of water into a sink all at once, you're going to have problems. Same thing goes with our body. But nobody pours giant buckets of high quality, sane calories into her body. Calories count, but why not simplify your life and let your body balance them for you by eating as much as you want whenever you are hungry, as long as it's high quality, sane food your body is designed to digest. When you do this, you will drop your set point, unconsciously consume the appropriate number of calories, take in dramatically more nutrition, overflow with energy, and never feel hungry. New heading: startling set point studies. In a series of fascinating studies to test the set point, University of Cincinnati researchers surgically removed and added body fat to various animals. Animals with body fat surgically removed then replaced exactly the mass of fat which was taken. Animals with body fat surgically added automatically burned more body fat until their body fat returned to its set point. In other studies, scientists had human subjects intentionally overeat. The results showed that the participants gained less weight than was predicted by calorie math, stopped gaining weight completely at a certain point, and then eventually returned to their original weight when they stopped overeating. You can see the pivotal role that the set point plays in our metabolism. Knowing that our initial set point is determined by our genetics, studies show about 40% to 70% of weight is genetically determined. Researchers also tested twins to prove the power of the set point. Identical twins share the same genes and therefore the same initial set point. One study tested two sets. Let's call them the Smith twins and the Thomas twins. Given 1,000 excess calories per day, would the Smith twins and the Thomas twins all gain the same amount of body fat as predicted by the conventional theory? Or would the set point for the Smiths produce a weight gain different from the Thomases? Different. Very different. The Smiths both gained the same amount of weight because they had the same set point. So did the Thomases, but weight gain varied by nearly 4 times between the two sets of twins because they had different set points. For example, while the Smiths each gained 2 pounds, the Thomas twins each gained 8 pounds. Exercise works the same way. In studies where pairs of twins are put through the same exercise program and have their diets held constant, each pair of identical twins sees the same changes in body composition, but the amount of fat lost varies between the pairs thanks to the varying set points. Same diets, same exercise, same set point, same results. Different set points, different results. Your set point determines your long-term weight. If your weight is elevated, it's because your set point is elevated thanks to what I call a hormonal clog. New heading. An elevated set point is like a clogged sink. When our hormones change, our set point changes. This is why we gain weight as we age. We aren't becoming lazier and hungrier with each passing year. As we age, our hormones change. The technical term for this is metabolic dysregulation, but it's easier to think of as a hormonal clog. When you become hormonally clogged, your body can no longer respond to signals from your hormones and brain that would otherwise enable you to burn body fat automatically. However, when you increase the quality or sanity of your eating and exercise, you can heal your hormones, unclog, lower your set point weight, and get your body to burn instead of storing fat. An easy way to understand how this hormonal clog elevates your set point is to think about your body as being like a sink. When a sink is working properly, more water poured in means more water drains out. The water level may rise temporarily, but the sink will automatically take care of that. The sink is balancing water in and water out at a low level. The sink has a low set point. A hormonally healthy body works similarly, doing its best to automatically keep excess fat from sticking around. That's why we each haven't gained the 1,333 pounds we should have gained according to mythical calorie math since the 1970s. A healthy body, like a healthy sink, responds to more in with more out, and to less in with less out. Water builds up in sinks and fat builds up in bodies only when they become clogged. The key question then is, what causes clogs? Sinks and bodies become clogged and break down when the wrong quality of things are put in them. This is why we don't worry about washing our hands as quickly as possible, but we do work to keep hair out of our drains. We know that no quantity of the right quality will ever cause our sink to clog. Low quality, not high quantity, causes clogs. Now, once clogs happen, any amount of water in will cause the water level to rise and stay high. We have a sink with an elevated set point. What do we do next? We could use less water for the rest of our lives, or we could spend an hour or two per day bailing excess water out of the sink. But why go through all that hassle when we could fix the underlying problem by unclogging the sink and letting it balance things out for us automatically around a lower set point? Think about your body the same way. When you put the wrong quality of food in it, your body becomes hormonally clogged, causing it to automatically balance you out at an elevated level of body fat. Like a backed up sink with stagnant water sitting in it, we end up with a bunch of stagnant fat sitting in our body. These clogs can eventually lead to obesity and diabetes. Once you're clogged and your body is balancing you out at an elevated set point weight, you could eat less of your existing diet, and that would temporarily lower your weight. But why struggle through starvation? That's just like turning the faucet down. It doesn't actually fix anything, and it's tough to keep the faucet down forever. We could also do more traditional cardiovascular exercise, such as jogging. But why? That's like bailing water out of the sink. It's time-consuming and doesn't fix anything long-term. The underlying cause of your fat gain persists. Consider a startling long-term weight loss study published in the New England Journal of Medicine. 50 men and postmenopausal women forced themselves to eat less for 10 weeks and lost weight. Success! Not so fast. We've all lost weight. The issue is losing it healthfully and then keeping it off practically. Consider the participants in this study. In response to their attempts to override their biology, the hormones that regulate their set points changed. The result? Their appetite increased automatically and their calorie burn decreased automatically. Biology was trying to return them to their set point. Fascinating, but not novel. This finding has been demonstrated in studies for decades. What sets this study apart is what the researchers discovered 1 full year after the starvation diet. Many of these alterations in appetite and calorie burn persisted for 12 months after weight loss. Even after the start of weight regain, researchers suggest that the high rate of relapse among obese people who have lost weight has a strong physiological basis and is not simply because they went back to their old habits. Participants who were below their set point weight still showcased a body engaged in multiple compensatory mechanisms to do everything it could to restore its set point weight a full year after the calorie counting starvation dieting success. Appetite was still increased, and greater than predicted drops in energy expenditure were still observed. The body was vigorously resisting the weight loss and trying desperately to regain the weight. You can avoid this unnecessary hassle and hunger by healing your hormones and restoring your body's ability to balance you out at a lower level of body fat. If the goal is sustainable and substantial weight loss, a more promising approach would be one based upon a strategy of directly altering the set point. The physiologic adjustments that ordinarily act to resist weight change would instead facilitate the achievement and subsequent maintenance of a lower weight, says Richard Kesey, PhD of the Department of Psychology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. By focusing your efforts on restoring the natural set point, you can stop obsessing over diet and exercise and allow your body to do what comes naturally. Sidebar: How to lose 135 pounds in 12 months without counting calories or being hungry. Robert's story. Robert was fed up. If you think that the medical issues that come along with weighing 360 pounds are a challenge, they pale in comparison with the ostracism and low self-confidence that tag along for the ride. Robert had been active and heavy his whole life. He was surrounded by slimmer friends and coworkers who ate more and exercised less than he did. After countless attempts to get by on 1,200 calories per day, Robert swore off calorie counting and starvation dieting. He could no longer tolerate how terrible it made him feel and the inevitable unhappy ending. After all, he could tolerate being hungry, tired, and depressed for only so long. Few things are worse than being heavy. Starvation is one of them, Robert says. When Robert freed himself from the calorie myths and embraced the sane solution, he immediately felt a sense of hope. It didn't seem too good to be true because it wasn't saying eat more garbage, but any scientifically supported approach that enables me to eat as much as I want whenever I want, as long as it's sane, seems doable and sustainable. 1 year after going sane, I have lost 135 pounds, over a foot around my waist, and I feel better than I did in my 20s. My friends and family can't believe what they are seeing. Heck, I can't believe it either. What makes it work is that I can eat, and I don't have to go around counting every calorie. When I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm hungry 10 times per day, I eat 10 times a day. The difference is I'm eating the right stuff. For the first time in decades, Robert is excited about the future. I'm not hungry anymore, and the weight is staying off. I've also noticed that even on days when I feel like being naughty, I usually don't feel like going crazy. I can really tell that my set point is readjusting itself. When you look at a piece of stuffed crust pizza and go, yeah, it looks okay, but man, all that bread, yuck, you know something has changed.